Hey guys, my name's Jordan and welcome back to my gaming channel named It's Game Productions, and today I have another video. I seem to be doing these videos pretty much every year, and I may, if you guys want to, I may do them more frequently, maybe every 3 months or so, being as the fact that technology changes very quickly. And that is the best gaming PC that I found parts for that you can build for under £400. Now for this I use PCPartPicker.com, which I use for pretty much all of my builds like this, because it enables me to basically give you a UK and a US link, which will give you the best prices for both regions basically. Unfortunately, if you're in Europe and places like that, I'm not entirely sure if there's a European version of it quite yet, but there certainly is for the UK and the US. So we're going to get straight into it, and to start off with, we have the AMD Athlon 2 X4 760K quad-core processor. That's the CPU, and it's a very good processor. It's 3.8 GHz quad-core, as I've said, and it's like, I've seen videos comparing it to stuff like the i5 3570K and things like that, and it holds its end pretty well. I mean, it's not going to be as fast as a Intel Core i5 3570K, but at the price, I mean, it's £60. It's less than half the price of a Core i5 of the 760K 3570K version. So it's an amazing processor for the price. With these budget builds, I always do recommend AMD's processors because the bang for the buck on them is amazing, and people always ask me, why are you always recommending AMD processors for this video and this video? It's because for the price point you can't beat AMD processors in the low end. Obviously if you're going for a high end build, then you are going to choose an Intel processor, or certain things do work better with Intel processors. But anyway, we'll move on to the motherboard. So for the motherboard, I chose the Gigabyte GA F2A55M DS2 Micro ATX Socket FM2 motherboard. So this is the correct motherboard to use with the processor. It has 2 RAM slots, it has 4 SATA ports, it's not a massive, like, loads of frills motherboard, it's quite a low cost motherboard. It's also got 1 PCI Express x 16 slot, 1 PCI Express x 1 slot, and 1 standard PCI slot. It's got, on the outputs for it, it has a VGA, a DVI, some PS2 ports, 4 USBs, an Ethernet, and a 5.1 audio on the back. So it's perfectly fine to be using. I mean, it's a no frills motherboard, so you're not going to get all those extra features like FireWire and things like that, or whatever else you want to use, but it does the job, and it will allow you to basically use maybe an upgraded graphics card in the future should you wish, or something along those lines. So for the memory, I went with Corsair XMS3, an 8GB stick of DDR 1333 MHz memory. My reasoning for this was because if you want to upgrade in the future, the motherboard only has 2 slots, so you want to get another stick of this to put 16 gigs of memory in, which will then obviously allow you to have 16 gigs of memory. And the RAM speed doesn't really matter too much with this build. 1333 will do fine. I mean, if you wanted to go a bit faster, you could get 1600 MHz memory, but because of the fact that you are using a dedicated graphics card, it does not require you to have the fastest of RAM running in quad channel or what such. So you should be okay with some DDR3 1333 MHz memory. And then moving on to the storage, I've gone with a Seagate Barracuda 500GB drive. This is a 7200 RPM internal hard drive. It is very fast, and as always, I always recommend Seagate Barracuda hard drives, unless you're going for like massive storage solutions, in which case I'd recommend WD Reds. But Seagate Barracuda drives have never failed me, and I've been using them for a long time, and I've been writing gigs and gigs of data to them. I mean, I have a 1TB Barracuda drive which I've had for 3 years now, which I used to record to all the time. So I'd be recording to, I'll probably be putting about 100 gig a day onto that drive. So they are very, very good drives, very, very reliable, and I would always recommend them to anyone who's looking for a hard drive. I've never had one fail me, or anyone I've recommended it to, so yeah, that's why I recommend Seagate Barracuda drives. Now with the video card, I have gone with the Asus R9 270. It's a 2GB video card. It's actually the video card I use at the moment, and I've been getting on really well with it. It makes pretty much no noise whatsoever when you're gaming. It is literally completely silent. Well, it's not. It's obviously not completely silent, but I can't hear it above the fan noises of the other fans in my computer. It is that quiet. In fact, I can actually sometimes hear my hard drives above it, which is kind of crazy, especially since my old graphics card was so loud. But in terms of like frames per second and things like that you get in games, in Battlefield 4 I run that on 1080p and pretty much all high settings, except I don't use anti-aliasing and ambient occlusion, and I will get between 70 and 90 frames per second with it. It is a very, very good card, and I would recommend it to anyone who's looking for a graphics card at this price. It is supposedly, according to AMD, the best graphics card that uses under 150 watts, so it only needs a single PCIe 6-pin adapter, which is very, very good for a graphics card of this power. So yeah, that's why I'm recommending the R9 270. Now with the case, I went with the Fractal Design Core 1000. This is a Micro ATX Mini Tower case, so it's a nice small case. It's got all the features you need. It does have a top-mounted power supply, which for some may be not as good of a thing, but it really is a solid case. Fractal Design make really, really good cases, and for the price I don't think you could probably beat it. I mean, if you're going for other cases around the price of this case, which is about £25, you're looking at really, really cheaply made bad ones, whereas Fractal Design are a well-known brand, and I would just always recommend getting a decent brand case, because the case is going to last you a lot longer than most of the other components in your system, if you treat it right. So yeah, that's why I recommend this case. And finally, with the power supply, I'm recommending the Corsair CX 430 watt. It's a semi-modular 80 plus bronze certified power supply. 430 watt is more than what's required to power this system, so you're pretty much going to be completely fine with using this in this system. And it's a low cost, it's semi-modular, which means you'll be able to keep it nice and neat and tidy inside, which is always good, because it's not nice to have a non-neat sort of looking computer. I mean, it's not bad, but it can be bad for airflow, but it just certainly annoys me if I have a non-neat looking system. But yeah, it's got all the connections you need. It's actually got two PCI 6-pin adapters, which means that if in the future you will be able to upgrade the graphics card should you require, which is always good. Looking into upgradability is always a good thing to do. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this build. So it came to a total of £387.43. In terms of dollars, I can just check that now. I've actually got the list open in front of me now. In terms of dollars, it comes to $499, so just under $500. That's including mail-in rebates and shipping. So that's always very good. So yeah, so it's probably the best gaming computer certainly I've been able to configure for this price, and I would recommend that you all, if you're looking for a gaming computer for this price, I'd recommend that you go and get it. It's not going to be like running everything ultra settings. It's definitely going to be running things on high settings, especially current gen titles. And the reason, I didn't actually say this before, but the reason I went with an AMD graphics card is because of the new Mantle API, which basically means that when this gets released, it should in theory reduce the need of a powerful processor in your system, due to the fact that the Mantle API handles sort of the draw calls and such a lot better than like DirectX, which therefore means that the processor should in theory be irrelevant in Mantle enabled games such as Battlefield 4 and Star Citizen, which basically means that you'll be able to play like modern games maybe even easier than current gen games, depending on how well the claims for Mantle API hold out. Just another note for those of you who are wondering why I haven't included the cost of Windows in with this build. The reason I haven't included the cost of Windows 7 or 8 or anything like that in with this build is because you can, should you wish, you can install Linux or the new coming Steam OS, which are both free operating systems that you can use to play games. And I know there are people out there who will take the pirate route around things and download it illegally, which is not something I'd recommend, but it's an option for those of you who are that way inclined, shall we say. But I would really recommend that you buy your operating system, and then you get the joy of lovely Windows noises going off while you're recording and such, which is always good. But yeah, as I said before, you do have alternate OSs you can use, such as Ubuntu is a really good Linux distribution that you can install Steam on and play a majority of well, quite a few games, especially a couple of Linux exclusives and stuff like that on there. But also the Steam OS is coming out. Well, it's already out in beta at the moment, so you can actually use it. But anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it for this little side note. That is pretty much it for this video, so please subscribe, rate and comment, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments section below, and I'll try to answer them as best as possible. And yeah, thank you for watching, and goodbye.